Phoenix Risings with Don Chanet Collins, where we make people and politics plain and simple for a more informed community and uplifting. We are here today with our host, Don Chanet Collins, and her co hosts, Chauncey King Cater Collins, Renee Singleton, Caleb Holmes, and Angel Bradford.
All right, so welcome to Phoenix Rising. This is September 24th, 2022. We have some exciting things for you today. We have What's Good in the Hood, where we'll be dealing with some poetry, some spoken word. We will also have a round table talk on two school board districts.
Recording in progress.
And on campaign money. All right, the campaign money, the two candidate districts are extremely important, but also extremely important is talking about that campaign money so you can discern who is a good candidate, not just the lip service that they give you. All right, and then we'll also deal with viral news you could use. We have the infamous books of the month, and then we'll close out with Yeah, I Said It. And this time, Yeah, I Said It is going to be about self-care is indeed the revolution. All right, so look, what y'all have going on with the What's Good in the Hood this time?
All right, now, Dawn, we got a lot of stuff that's good in the hood, as usual. So today we're gonna focus and highlight a nonprofit. We're gonna get to that poetry but that's not all they do. They do some wonderful things.
Okay,
you know the ones, the main movers and shakers.
Yeah.
This is called LA Shift, and I understand that LA Shift is creating a shift in the community, not to sound hokey, but to sound hopeful.
Yeah.
So we've got the LA Shift people here with us today. We've got Brandon Harris,
yes, ma'am.
who is co-chair, vice president and co-chair, along with Chauncey. Is it King Cater Collins?
Yes,
I just love that.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
beyond.
The infamous Don Collins' son.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. See, it's nice to admit your children.
Yeah, you know, it's
There you
nice
go.
when you can claim them.
There you go. But I'm really interested in this organization. It sounds very intriguing to me. I like the idea of what they represent. So I'm going to say what I think you said you represent. And y'all correct me. Jump on in there. So my understanding is that LA Shift is a nonprofit organization. It was pretty much started last year, correct?
Correct.
And that you propose to create that shift in our culture here in Baton Rouge by decriminalizing homelessness, which, considering what our own Metro Council just did last month, yeah, I know.
I ain't gonna speak on that.
It's something that comes timely. If they want to criminalize people camping on public property, like people were put on this planet, and you can levitate and just be wherever they want you to be. Anyway, it's beyond the pale. But they also tackle racism and they want to ensure gender equality and equity. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So now you all were telling me about some exciting things that LA Shift has been doing, and you say that you are involved in several projects. You've got several ongoing things. Cleanup, beautification efforts in our community, that you collaborate with other organizations like Youth Oasis.
Yes.
You said that you provide ongoing surface projects offering like mentorship. So I have a question about that. Well, mentorship in general areas like social and life skills, even housekeeping, how you keep your checking account from going in the red. Specific training like graphic design, you were talking about creative design, video editing. So are those efforts that you do with Youth Oasis, or are there particularly other things you do with organizations like Youth Oasis?
So right now with Youth Oasis, we are creating a series. We've proposed some projects and overall activities that they were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like a few, like how to prepare for a job, appropriate attire, kind of just mentorship. And then from there are other projects or activities that the kids might be interested in learning. So we're outlining and kind of trying to create those workshops for that. And they won't just be for Youth Oasis, they'll be for the overall community.
Got it. Are these for children who are, young people who are currently in school, or people who are transitioning out of school, from high school, just into general life rather than going to college?
Just to meet the community where it is.
Okay.
Right. So if you are in school and you would like to start participating and participate in these workshops, then it's important that you have the opportunity to do so. If you're leaving out of school and you still want to learn and you still want to participate in these workshops, I think that it's important that you have the opportunity to do so as well. I think that right now something that the youth in our community lack is sort of opportunities, and so our goal is to provide them with positive opportunities so that they can, you know, become more well-versed.
I like that. I like that. You were also talking about something that I got kind of excited about. Community gardens. My yard looks like the devil's playground, but
let us know. We'll
let us know. We'll come make a garden. We'll put a garden there. Yeah.
That's one of the parts
y'all
of
just
the
made
garden
her
project.
world.
okay. Now don't cry when you come by and see what I'm talking about, because I have already told them.
Yeah, we'll make it look
Did I
beautiful.
say devil's playground? I meant that now.
So,
okay.
a part of the garden project, and shout out to the project leader Diamond, Diamond Green.
Okay.
So we are currently, we have one location. Our goal is to, you know, meet the community again where they are and sort of start to teach them and create a system where, you know, maybe if you do have that plot of land and it's not being used, you can contact us, and then we can start kind of establishing a garden there.
I love it.
And we can like start growing from there.
Now I already got ideas what I want, but all right, I'm gonna take y'all up on that.
We can talk about it.
We can talk about it,
Yeah.
seriously.
Oh, I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so so now that's now let's go over to the poetry side. I'm a performing artist myself, so that kind of touched me. And our own Caleb here had the opportunity to go to one of the poetry events that you all sponsor. And my understanding is that you kind of like have a roster of poets, right? Several poets, and we have one. We're lucky to have a poet here.
Yeah,
I understand that you also are a poet, right?
Oh, I sometimes perform,
Yeah.
but I also like to highlight Trinity, because Trinity is an amazing poet.
Yeah.
She's also a part of the poet committee,
Okay.
so she has a large hand in establishing the theme and what the poetry event will consist of.
Okay, so the poetry events that you all sponsor, tell us a little bit about how often they are, where they are, that kind of thing.
We usually have our events every other Thursday. We give a nice 2-week period, but sometimes depending on where we're called to go or who reaches out to us to come perform, it might be a little more often than that. The different kind of events we have a lot of open mics, so people in the community also have a space to come perform. And at the open mics, we have a roster of poets that we already have set up to come up and do their performances, but we also have an open mic too, so people can come and read if they feel welcome to.
Now, Caleb went to one of your poetry events, and Caleb also has done some poetry recitation and stuff. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Long time ago.
I'm not gonna put you, but you won a prize with yours. You did say that.
Okay.
You also won a
That's
prize
awesome.
with yours. So tell us a little bit about what you experienced when you went, where you went, Caleb, when you heard them.
Well, y'all were at Highland Coffees, and I think it was a very intimate space. It was in between Highland Coffees and another building. It was a big, pretty mural on the back with the bird. I believe it was a dove. Overall, I think it was really good. It was a really good space, and I don't really have words to elongate it other than it was a good space, it was a good time, it was a good event. And I think it's something worthwhile promoting, and I think that there will be many more events to come. And wherever they are, I will probably be there. Hopefully Ms. Renee
Yeah, will I get my health back?
might
You
come
never
out
know.
late one night past 8:30.
I'm too old for that. Now listen to this. Listen to this. Okay, so you do them at Highland Coffees, which is by LSU, and that coffee shop is wonderful. It's been there for a while. And you said you did something at a place called, was it Silly Rabbit?
Yes,
Rabbit.
it is.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
our
actually
main location.
And shout out to Seti at the Silly Rabbit for having the first black-owned comedy club in Baton Rouge. So props to that or whatnot. Shout out to him. And it's overall just a very good collaboration between the two of us, and he allows us to overall put the energy that we need to put out into the universe out
Yeah.
there. So it's beautiful, and
Yeah.
this venue is top tier.
And I understand that poetry readings and things like that are just happening all over the country. They're happening in places like Atlanta for sure. Have y'all been to other places doing them?
Well, so we've definitely been talking about venues in Atlanta, Memphis. Those are the two locations that are primarily the easiest for us to get right now. It's just that while we're here in Louisiana, we get so many requests. Like
Very
literally, like so many people who just kind of want to yo, y'all come here this time, y'all come here. So it's like, okay, well, when do we have time to pack up and go somewhere else? You know what I'm saying? And then also when we do so, I want to be able to allow a comfortable traveling situation for all of the poets or whatnot. We're talking about like a group of like 25 individuals or whatnot, and let alone that's not considering the group me and the regular LA Shift members or whatnot. So I overall want to be able to get them where I want to get them, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a time and a place for everything. But indeed, that is a route that we're trying to take.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank y'all for letting me talk about your organization, and I hope that all Baton Rouge pays attention and keeps up with what's happening with LA Shift, not just in the poetry readings, but definitely in the poetry reading. That's inspirational. It's something that we ought to all embrace and support. But now we are privileged also to hear Miss Trinity Ricard. Give us a sample of your poetry. You said the poem that you're going to do for us today is called Starving.
Yes.
Can you just give us a little bit about what inspired you to compose this poem?
I'm an artist of all kinds. Like, creativity is literally my passion. But my main art form is like literally drawing, sculpting, creating art, painting. And so starving is what it's like to be an artist, trying to make it and trying to come up. Really getting it out the mud and how it feels to be in this foundation setting process, but knowing where you're going and being guided there by God.
Perfect. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen and our viewers, I would like to present to you, this is Trinity Ricard.
Okay. Never date an artist. They do not live in the real world, and God forbid they be the starving kind. They eat dreams for breakfast. They don't exist by reality's rules. Nothing we say will make sense to you. They speak the native tongue of La La Land, of chasing dreams around silver platters. Delusion becomes your favorite snack. Call that filter feeding. Because the breath in your lungs be the only thing keeping you hanging on. Oxygen might as well be nitrous oxide. The way you gotta daze it out to keep on going. The way the days dip out is time flowing. What is time? But a story already written, you work your butt off to bring into existence. It is being the main character, never knowing how the story ends, but flying with a hunch as your wings and praying to God you don't find yourself Icarus. How tragically fitting would it be for life to be the pavement you splatter across like canvas? It is a story you can never finish reading, so you must listen to the voice commanding you to move. Until you've done it, until you're flying, you listen. Until you and Source are once again one. Yes, we hear voices. Excuse me if I missed you. I was too busy distinguishing me from my thoughts, from my ego, from the tempter, from God, from wisdom. It can get quite noisy in the crowded space I imagine as my mind. Excuse me if I missed you. I was imagining the plane expanding a bit to fit all of me comfortably, you see. I think, therefore I am who I think myself to be. Have you ever almost thought yourself out of existence? I warned you this will make little sense to you. Are you hearing? The sanity and insane, are you hearing? A growling stomach beneath the senseless chewing, I'm hungry. But our xylophone against the ribs into the rhythm is something I can dance to. This is how you eat from life before it can swallow you whole. I am the pineapple, it just can't choke down. I'm starving and I create like it, don't you hear it? The labor of this kind of conception. The birth of an experience into something tangible, giving life from life. My art is my children. An orphanage led by the mother. What a sacrifice to give the world something crafted inside of you. To create and give your life. Creation is godlike. And maybe that's why we're branded crazy. Perhaps we weren't meant to reach that deep into God's waters. Not a sailing, but a full engulfing into a world that is the same but isn't. And as you sink into all it is to be this far gone, your eyes play I spy with the brain to pass the time. Look at the trees, are a ballroom of emotions, bodies pouring and stretching towards the sky. There's a palette adorned with the most beautiful colors, seamlessly melting beneath the clouds. And the clouds are never one thing, but everything your mind can imagine. And in an instant, not even that, ever changing. And I am them, and they are me. And for a moment, I feel everything. Do you hear it? The silence of a body settled and full. I told you, I eat my dreams for breakfast. That's all I got.
Wow. Thank you.
Amazing.
Well, that's what's good in the hood.
That is definitely what's good in the hood. All right. So now look, if you have something that you feel like is good in the hood and you'd like to be spotlighted, we are glad to do so. Hit us up at What's Good at Phoenix Rising with Dawn Like we used to saying it, I'm sorry. Okay, say it again. Hit us up at what's good at phoenixrisingwithdawn.com. Alright?
Make sure y'all send that email.
Send an email. We want to hear about what you got going on, alright? Alright, so look, we are going to transition into our round table talk with the school board elections and campaign money. This is election season for school board races, as well as a couple of judge races. All of the 9 districts for EBR school board are being contested. I'm not running for re-election right now. As you all have already heard, I'm taking a hiatus from campaign activities right now while I focus on transitioning into the legal profession and helping Eden Stephon Collins, my grandson, be the best big brother he can be to the future Alan Isabel Collins. So District 4 has 3 candidates, and District 3 has 2. We're going to welcome via our Zoom live feed. So what we're going to do is, it's important to discuss the candidates, but it's also important to discuss things that influence the candidates. Of course, constituents are supposed to influence candidates first and foremost, but in reality, there are other influencers. There are special interest groups, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to be cognizant and mindful of that as you make decisions. You cannot just listen to what a candidate says, okay? You have to look at who has their ear to influence what they do, okay? All right, and so we're gonna start off with District 3 candidates, and we'll go in ballot number order, and we'll spotlight District 3. And then can that first candidate go ahead and begin? I want you to start with your, who you are, why you are running. And you have about 2 minutes to answer that question. Unmute yourself. All right. And all right, Ms. Carla.
Okay, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carla Powell, and I am number 82 on the ballot for District 3. I have chosen to enter this race. First of all, thank you so much to both of you, Ms. Collins, and your additional host for inviting us on your show.
Glad to have you.
I have decided to run as just to fulfill the passion. I am a 17th year educator. I am so thankful, Ms. Collins, to have had the chance to teach, if not one, both of your children in social studies in high school. And the same thing, I have committed my life to social studies and committed my life to civics and education as well. And so I've decided to enter this race not only as a veteran teacher, but then also as a parent of a student who is in EBR and as a lifelong resident of the North Baton Rouge area as well. And I want to see our community and our city of Baton Rouge thrive. And the only way that we can do that is to prepare students for college and the world of work. And so I would like to participate more in this arena so that way I can assist others in preparing them to serve as valuable parts of the community. And whatever I can do to assist my school board in that process is what I want to do. So that's why I've chosen to run for this position of District 3 EBR candidate.
Thank you very much. And then we have next Jamie Robinson.
Yes, it's great to be here with you all today. I'm so happy and delighted. Thank you, Madam Vice Chairwoman and the other hosts that put this forum together for us. I am a lifelong advocate, a lifelong resident of District 3, right in Mid-City. I'm an advocate of public education. I have been an advocate for a long time for communities, sustainable community schools, and strengthening our current public school system as it relates to the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board.
Thank you so much. All right, so then, Ms. Powell, what are your goals for the school system in the work that you want to do?
Sorry, I thought I was losing connection there for a moment. Could you ask the question one more time,
No
please?
problem. What are your goals for how you want to move in the school system, things that you want to do?
Yes. So my goals not only include, of course, increasing the literacy rate. That has been, a little coin phrase that has been used for quite some time in regards to our statistics and our data that supports that we are very low as a state on improving student literacy between kindergarten and third grade, but then also to say that we want to improve the literacy rate for our students who are beyond those age ranges as well, that we want to produce sustainable employees, like I said before, and career options within our city as well, but then also to increase public safety and school safety within our schools. Right now, we know all across this country we have been affected by in-school safety issues as well as external safety issues as well. And we want to make sure that we have a viable plan, a strategy that will allow us to not be affected by some of the mass safety issues that have taken place throughout the country. And then also to provide resources for teacher retention. Yes, we need improved pay, but we also need improved professional development. We also need social and emotional support for our teachers as well. And we need to be able to treat them as though they are valued. And so that's what I hope to bring to the table. Those are my goals, is that we will find strategies and that we will support our teachers, that we will support our children, and then also that we will make sure that all of our staff is protected and safe as they do this work of educating our kids.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jamie Robinson, what are your goals?
Yes, ma'am. First and foremost, my goals as it relates to joining the school board is to restore the voice of educators, of stakeholders, of even children and their parents in the process of educating them within our system. I believe that morale across the board amongst staff, administration, parents, even our children all across our school board has gone down tremendously. And it has a lot to do with them being silenced and their voice not being taken into account, and all these decision making that is happening that affects them immediately and their future. Furthermore, as a long advocate of teachers and being a teacher myself, I know the importance of feeling valued. I know the importance of making a livable wage and having access to benefits that actually benefit me personally. And so, of course, one of my main goals is to make sure that we do what we need to do, not just for our teachers, but our bus drivers, our custodians, all of our support staff. Make sure that they feel valued, make sure they have access to a livable wage, professional growth opportunities that don't end at pay and benefits, but also giving them the opportunity to have things like tuition reimbursement or help in a program to where they can grow professionally. Then the other piece of it is finally is offering real sustainable resources back into our community and supporting the community, the sustainable community school module that was recently given to the school board. I remember at Park Elementary, I was one of the first community partners at Capital Elementary when we started the pilot program for that module. And we really began to address the issues that many of our children have that we don't only see in school, but that they have outside of school that affects them inside the classroom and academically. And making those resources are equitable because every school has different students and they have different life circumstances. So the way we address these issues has to be different. And so just giving each school the specific resources and materials they need to be successful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so look, I know y'all have a crunch time, this campaign, you have to juggle going to various events. This panel discussion, this particular roundtable, excuse me, is real short and sweet. This is not intense candidate forum. This is to give people a taste of who you are and then to allow them to do further research. So I'm gonna ask each of you, Carla and then Jamie, if people wanna learn more about you, what is your website, or any other way that they can contact you, and then you can feel free to drop off and go do your other campaigning. So Carla, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yes, ma'am. So I am available on social media at Carla Powell for School Board District 3. Also, you can find me on Instagram with the handle of the @ CCP for DIST3, which is District 3 as well. And then you can also find me on my website at votecarlapowell.com. And of course, there are additional links and information about myself there as well. And if you have any desire to reach out to me via phone, you can at 225-443-0180. Again, that's 225-443-0180. And my email address is Carla Powell @gmail.com. So again, that's Carla Powell @gmail. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Jamie.
Okay, yes, thank you again for allowing us to be on this forum. You can reach me on Facebook at Elect Jamie Robinson or on Instagram with the @go, spelled GEAUX_Jamie. You can visit my website to learn more about my platform at www.electjamierobinson.com. You can email me at electjamierobinson@gmail.com, or you can feel free to reach out to me for a personable conversation because I do like to talk. So 225-242-7126. Again, my phone number is 225-242-7126. Thank you again, Madam Vice and other hosts for having us today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so let's move forward with District 4 candidates. That will be Tabby Jackson and Monique Robinson. Now, Shoshone Stewart is also a candidate. She did text me and let me know that she had another event that she already had her campaign kickoff event was also today. She didn't feel that she could juggle both. There is some time overlap, but not a total time overlap. It is not uncommon for candidates to juggle more than one thing that occurs close in proximity of time. But she was very polite and let me know that she did have a prior engagement, which she did. Okay. All right. So we have Ms. Tebby. Go ahead and let us know why you are running.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me, Ms. Collins.
Yes,
I'm Tabby Jackson. I'm running for District 4 for the East Baton Rouge School Board. I'm number 88. I'm running for school board because I think it's time for an educator to have a voice on a board that's making educational policy. I'm a 21-year educator. 10 of those years working in education was in East Baton Rouge Parish. My husband is an educator. I'm a former employee of East Baton Rouge Parish, and all three of our children attended East Baton Rouge Parish. In fact, our oldest daughter is a graduate of the system. She currently attends the top public university in the country. And I believe that EBR produces greatness, and I want to be a part of that. Um, I've been working in this system. I've seen things that I wanted to change while working in the system, and I want to be a part of that change. I want to be that change that I want to see. I've worked as a teacher, a librarian, and I'm currently an assistant principal in Tangipahoa Parish. So I bring a wealth of experience and knowledge, and I think it's time that that knowledge and experience is on our board to represent District 4.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Ms. Monique, please make sure, I apologize, we're gonna go to the next candidate. Please, correct me if I misstated, or mispronounced your name. And please charge it to the head and not the heart. I left my cheat sheet on the other table. We got her?
Miss Monique?
Monique?
She's not in.
She not in?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no. Did she ever log in? Oh, okay. Did she double check with Angel to see if she tried to reach Angel to let her know about, oh, she not able to communicate at all? Okay, all right. Well, all right, well, so.
Moving
We'll
on.
move on to the next question from Ms.
Moving on.
Tabby.
Hey,
Okay.
let's go.
Just me, that's all right. Hey, I'm here for
Double
you.
check. Make sure she, because Angel was the original contact. I don't want anybody to get left out there and
Right.
tempted to. All
Right.
right. Okay. So, so Ms. Tabby, tell us what your goals are.
Right, my platform is near and dear to my heart. It's continuing work that I've been doing over the last 21 years as an educator. First and foremost, I want to see literacy increase in our district. As my counterparts said, and they're educators, and I love that there's so many educators in this race. Our literacy in the state is low, and we need to improve that. One of my goals is to see in EBR that every child by the third grade is reading to learn. To do that, I'd like to be on the board. There was a lot of legislation in the last session that was around literacy and dyslexia. My daughter has dyslexia, so these are issues that are close to me. As a former librarian, I'd like to see literacy increase. So definitely, that's one of the things that I'm working towards, and as part of my platform. Also, as an educator, I'd like to see the graduation rate rise. Right now, it's around 69%. It's up over the last 5 years, so we're doing great work in EBR. I'd like to see that continue. I support the different pathways to success. We have to increase our student engagement. That's how we keep our students, and that's how we help them to graduate. Everyone's not going to college, so we definitely need to continue those programs in our school district so that we can increase that rate. And then finally, as an educator for 21 years, 10 in EBR, 8 without a pay raise. And I know how hard it is to live off of the pay as an educator that we make. So I definitely want to see a pay raise, not just for educators, but for support staff as well, across the board, at least to the Southern average. I'd like to see us at the national average, but to at least start at the Southern average. That's going to help with recruitment and retainment in our district. We are suffering a teacher shortage, not just in EBR, but in all the parishes across the state and across our country. So we want to see that. We want to see teachers in our school district come back and stay. We have to get that pay raise. And to do that, it's one thing that we've been fighting for since I've been in EBR, and that's collective bargaining. Please remember that. I'd like to see that happen in EBR. That's when teachers have a say in their work environment. And it's all over the country. We're the only state, I won't say the only state, but in our state, we only have 2 parishes that participate in collective bargaining. So I definitely would like to see that come to EBR. So again, the literacy rate, the graduation rate, and as well as teacher pay raises, and across the board support staff raises as well. And that's what I'm fighting for District 4 and why I'm running.
All right. So look, somebody had mentioned to me that as they were listening to the different candidate forums, and since we have a little more time, since the other opponent didn't log on, let me go ahead and raise up a concern that I have with District 4, and that is that MSAP grant, the Magnet School Assistance Program grant. When I first got on the school board, my sons were relatively recent graduates from high school. Dalen graduated in 2014, Chauncey graduated in 2015, and I got on the board in 2016. So I had vivid memory of my experience as a parent with two children in public ed, and I recalled how I felt about the schools in my area. Every parent wants the best for their child, and so they're gonna look and search around, and maybe the school in their neighborhood is it, and maybe not. I recall feeling like the options in my area were limited. When I got on the school board, I did the data to research whether or not my sentiment was just mine or whether it was that of other families in the area. And so sure enough at that time, about 30% or so of the families in the area were going to schools outside of the area. And most of that was not to charter schools, but to magnet schools, okay? And so one of the things I advocated for was for all of my schools to be better resourced, because my area had been neglected for a little while. You don't think about the northeast side of the parish being neglected in resources in the same way you think about, or people talk about North Baton Rouge, and they think about North Baton Rouge being Scotlandville, Reynolds, etc. And maybe hurry up and speed myself up and get to a question for you, Teddy, as I explain the MSAT program. The Magnet School Assistance Program is one thing that was birthed out of that, including 4 schools: Villa Del Rey Elementary, Park Forest Elementary, Park Forest Middle, and Bel Air High School, so that they can all feed and build up into a stronger program in those upper grades. That is a 5-year grant. That was a 5-year grant, excuse me, that is soon to expire. The question that some have had that was brought back to me, again, I'm not being active this campaign season, including I'm not endorsing in my particular race. I have to be very intentional about how I move in this time where I am transitioning. So I'm not endorsing in this particular race, but I'm educating people so that they can make their own decision, all right? And so that MSAP program, that funding is drying up. Some people are concerned, including myself, about sustainability. And I have personally additional concern about all these new programs without doing feasibility studies, without making sure that you're not that as a district we don't rob Peter to pay Paul by pulling resources from one place to another place, and also simultaneously, as I mentioned before, not make sure that that MSAP program has the sustainability it needs. And so then, Tabby, I wanted to lift that up to you, and if since that question has come up a little bit, and there was a $15 million grant for 5 years at those 4 schools. Did you have any thoughts on? And I apologize. I hope I'm not. Well, I am putting you on the spot. So don't. If I'm putting you on the spot and you feel like you have difficulty responding, please feel free to say so. But I'm giving you an opportunity to share your thoughts about that, and then if you had any ideas of what you could do as a school board member to address that concern.
Thank you for the opportunity and the question. You are correct. I've lived in this district in the Park Forest area for over 20 years. And I was one of those parents that was faced with the choice of trying to choose schools for my child. And like you said, I'm going to do what's in the best interest of my child. And at the time when we first moved here, I was told that if I wanted my child to have a good education, that we had to put our children in private school. And as a public educator and married to a public educator, that was unacceptable. But again, I was going to find the best schools in the system. So my children, they qualified for gifted and magnet programs, and they did not attend the traditional schools in our district. And that was a problem for me. When I got to this district, the schools were the elementary school, Park Forest Elementary, was an F. Thank God that we've come up from there. They're doing great things over at Park Forest Elementary. It's now a C. But again, I want to work to make sure that my daughter, who's currently now in a charter school, because EBR did not have a program for dyslexia, that we do have these programs that we implement in EBR to bring those parents back to our area schools. I love the community schools model. I'd like to see that. The magnet program, and that was what your question was about.
Mm-hmm.
I work at a magnet school. I'm an administrator at a magnet school, and it's great when it's a dedicated magnet and we have those fundings to sustain those programs. But what we have now at a Park Forest, the magnet component, and as you mentioned, is going to run out. That disheartens me, because if we're going to implement programs, please let them be sustainable. I want those programs to be there so when the next generation of kids come through Park Forest, they can have those resources as well. But at the same time, I don't get caught up in magnet and
Oh,
gifted.
absolutely.
I'd like to think about, what about the traditional schools? We can't forget about
Absolutely.
those kids.
Yes,
Every
yes.
child is not going to qualify for magnet. Every child is not going to be gifted, but they
Yes.
still deserve a quality education. So as long as we're giving the best education to our children, it really doesn't matter to me if it's magnet, if we have that magnet program here. We do have magnet programs that are close to the area. Our children can attend that, but I still would like to see Park Forest get the resources they need so that Park Forest can improve, Bel Air can improve, and the other 8 schools in our district. It's personal for me, Don, as an educator. 10 of those schools, I've worked at one of those schools. I worked at the alternative school. I worked with, out of the 10 principals of the schools in our district, 3 of them I have personal relationships. I've worked for 2 of them. So it's personal to me to help. I know what these schools need. I'm not talking about what I heard or what I think or what the teachers say. I've worked in these schools. I've worked in this community, and I know what we need, and I'm here to fight for it. So yes, I do support all of those programs, and if that's what's best for Park Forest, then by all means, the teachers and the parents and administrators want to continue those programs, sure, then let's find the funding. Let's make it sustainable. Let's make it a true dedicated magnet. Don't half-step. Don't give District 4.
No,
So that's what I'm out here fighting for, Dawn. So yes, I do support that. But again, I want to make sure our students get their needs met at every level.
Yes, and then look, let me also just clarify the record and I appreciate your viewpoint, and what I'm about to say is not to take away from your viewpoint, but I also want to be clear about why the approach was taken on those particular campuses to not do a dedicated magnet and to do a program, one, not to displace neighborhood kids, which is problematic with this new focused choice model and any new dedicated magnets, because then you're talking about further segregating students by academic performance, okay? And those children need to be able to learn from one another and support one another's progress. And then, and that's the main thing. So it was actually, Tebby, just FYI, you may not have known or heard me mention that it was very intentional to have a program instead of it being a dedicated magnet. We all know, and I've benefited myself. My son went to Scotlandville in the engineering program, and that's one of a Model 6 schools in the nation. With the engineering program at Scotlandville, it's one program of many plus a traditional campus. To me, those models are best because it does not push out neighborhood kids, and it brings resources to those campuses that otherwise would not be there. And so, yeah, a dedicated magnet. I did 3 years at Scotlandville when it was the Eagles, and the community resented. The Hornets resented the Eagles because they had to go way across town instead of the school in their own neighborhood. And that's something that people don't necessarily think about when we talk about dedicated magnets. And I'm not gonna say that dedicateds are an absolute evil, because my grandson attends Belfair Montessori. I always wanna be fully transparent. But we have to balance those things. You can't have too many of those things, because then what we ended up doing is straining resources for those students that's struggling. And that becomes counterproductive to the whole community. And so, Tim, I want to thank you for your time. And I loved your conversation. And what we're going to do now is move to Tanya Nyman and to Quentin Anthony Anderson. And Tanya, you got 5 minutes. And look, we're going to be a little loose. Try to get it in at 4, Tanya, because somebody might ask you a question. Look, I know she cringing because she like, I already only have 5 minutes. I already only have 5 minutes, Dawn, and you want me to do 4. But look, they might ask some questions, and that might give you some time to say a little bit more that you didn't think you needed to say, Tanya. I'm teasing. Go ahead. You have about 5 minutes to share. And also I want to say this. The purpose of having Tanya and Quentin come and give folks some thought around how money is spent and how it influences what happens in the decision-making process is, again, as I mentioned earlier, for you all to have something to work with in terms of making your decision. It is not good enough for an organization that names itself something amazing but actually does things to cause harm to communities, to endorse somebody and say that they are great. Okay, you have to know who that organization is for real. You have to know beyond the platitudes, beyond them saying, oh, inclusion, equity, that's what Black children need, is what they're pushing. And that's just one example, is what they're pushing. Actually good for Black children. When you look at the outcomes of what they actually dump money into so that they can in turn make money, is it beneficial to Black children? As one example of how those types of things need to be questioned. All right, so hit it, Tanya. And I promise I ain't take away from your 5 minutes.
All right, so I can kind of keep it short and just primarily do questions because I wasn't quite sure how you wanted me to frame it. I mean, I think one thing people need to realize is just the dramatic effect that the Citizens United decision has had on all of our elections. Before Citizens United, there were caps on how much corporations, PACs, and super PACs could spend in elections, and now that has been lifted. And super PACs in particular, they, in theory, they're not supposed to coordinate with candidates, but they, there's very little oversight or regulation, ability to monitor that. And they can pour money into elections exponentially, regardless of whether they have recruited the candidate or whether they have are just looking for candidates that will echo their talking points. And so very often what you do find is that people who are towing a line that benefits corporations or companies that will profit from certain policies are the ones that will be able to get all of the digital advertising and the radio spots and the mailers to homes in order to increase their profile in the community. And then it gives them an almost insurmountable advantage within an election. How about we start with questions from there so that I can focus, figure out best how to focus the additional remarks.
Anybody have any questions?
So what is currently being done to sort of level the playing field?
Well, what I've done and what I think everybody should focus on is to try to understand what constitutes a fair map and in our redistricting process. I think one thing that people should realize is that back, when the in 1965 with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, at that time, the number of elected officials was actually required to increase as the population increased. So you maintained a certain elected official to constituent ratio. So for example, in the early 70s, the school board had, they didn't have single member districts, but they had school board members that were elected by the ward method, and they had one school board member for every approximately 23,000 constituents. And now we're up to 43 or 46,000 constituents per school board member. So this makes it more difficult for school board members to actually serve their constituents. But when it comes to campaigning, it also makes it exponentially more expensive to campaign. So, for example, one mailer to households in every district of that size is going to be closer to $10,000. Actually, Dawn might know even better. And so, if you have to send 2-3 mailers to your constituents or the people within that district in order to be able to raise up your profile, that's $30,000 right there, and that's a lot of money to start raising. And that's not all the additional expenses. So it's important, I think it's important that the only way that we can kind of push back towards that Citizens United, the effects, is to try to make sure we advocate for a lower elected official to constituent ratio, just like most of us want to see a lower student to teacher ratio, right? And that's one way to go about it. But otherwise, I think there isn't a great deal of awareness about what to do about it, because we know the Supreme Court we have is kind of, is where we are.
So then also too, and Tanya, as I jog your thought process, another thing is that some organizations are very deliberate about advocating for public ed in particular. And so there's the SHOT Foundation. I see some rumblings of some folks getting ready to organize here locally. And they are specifically working towards protecting the democratic control of schools and all that entails, which also includes making sure that people are aware of how money is involved and things of that nature. So there are things that's going on, but in terms of the monetary influence on elections is very is an uphill battle, because as she mentioned with the Citizens United, and then also too, Tanya, Quentin will come on another show. I had mentioned Quentin Anderson. He has some knowledge around, and I do too. I'll speak on it. And Tanya, if you want to chime in, some of the uphill battle is that in addition to the Citizens United, you have, people hear PACs, Political Action Committee, and they say, oh, PACs, some candidates will go as far as saying, I won't take PAC money because people know the amount of influence it can have. Well, things are going to the next level, because with PACs, so let's back up and make it just practical and for the average Joe Blow voter, or constituent rather. There are campaign contribution maximums.
Yeah.
So for a campaign like school board, the max contribution is $2,500. A PAC can spend more than that. Okay, I think for a school board race it might be $5, I can't recall, by one individual or one organization. Now, on top of that, organizations can spend money non-coordinated on a race, as long as they don't tell that campaign that, look, I'm doing this and this for you, so you just focus your resources on this and that. They can spend whatever money they want, and going to the next level is what people are doing now called C4 tables. Okay, so a PAC has to register as a PAC with the campaign financing. Okay, and then they are reporting who the money is going to, etc., or how the money is spent, and who they receive money, who's funding the PAC. The C4s, there's no disclosure as to who is funding the C4, period. And Tanya, did you want to chime in a little bit on that, or are you good?
Well, I do want to chime in on the notion of what can be done, because as you're pointing out, the super PACs they don't have to disclose their donors, and they can spend as much money as they want. And so the only way to push back is to really understand that we have to get involved, go back to grassroots organizing, that people need to vet candidates that are going to be responsive to stakeholders, and then people need to volunteer. as in you get out and you go knock on doors for that candidate and you fundraise for that candidate. Because if you have a grassroots candidate, they can't sit on the phone and call up wealthy donors constantly, try to make up that shortfall. They need people, they need their supporters going out there door to door and asking for small dollar donations. But most significantly, they need that, the actual support of having people in their community talking to their friends and family to support that candidate, so that that's the only way that's going to push back against digital advertising. Right now, if people are always going to make their decision about a candidate based on ad campaigns and leave it at that, you're never going to be able to overcome that. Like, they're always going to be able to outspend a grassroots candidate. And so the only thing that's going to really effectively push against that is making sure that people within their districts get out and volunteer in support of that.
All right, so I'm gonna close out with this, Tanya. And I don't know if the guys are gonna be able to put this link on the website. It's on the script. It's on the script, guys, so if you get a chance to put it for people to see. What I recommend too is that, one, Google the organizations that are shown as paid for. If somebody sent a mailer, whether it's campaign season or not, they send a mailer and they say, thank you so-and-so for being a great advocate for education. Look at the paid for. Go to your computer or your phone and go to Google or DuckDuckGo or whichever browser that you use, whichever search engine you use, and Google that organization. And don't just look at their mission or their vision or their purpose. Look at who is on the board of those organizations and Google search those people, okay?
Dawn, can I interrupt just
Yeah,
a second on that? So I want to say that they're getting a little trickier about being able to search them up. One thing everybody should know is that they also will often just change their names, right? You have every election season, they'll just revamp as a new organization. But one thing, for example, there's one organization that's operating right now in Baton Rouge, and I think it's the Baton Rouge Alliance, right? And if you go, one thing you can go is you go to the Secretary of State's website,
Yes.
sos.la.gov,
Yes.
and you pull up that organization's business license, and it'll tell you its directors and board holders, and then you can search the directors to find out. So this alliance has Liz Smith and Adonica Duggan, but it also has an individual, and I'm sorry, I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but he's affiliated with the City Fund. So even though that PAC isn't publicizing itself as connected with the City Fund, it is connected with the City Fund. And then you can go research the City Fund to learn about their efforts to promote charter schools and the further proliferation of charter schools and the erosion of,
Sell yogurt, but then give you breast cancer.
Chauncey, go ahead, Tanya.
Now, I didn't hear what Chauncey said.
Oh, my bad. I said it's kind of like the Yoplait stuff, like how the FDA will approve Yoplait to sell yogurt, but then dairy is the biggest carcinogen in the world, and then on the Yoplait carton it says, well, we're trying to save breast cancer, but then you're selling the biggest carcinogen in the world.
Yeah. The smoke and mirrors of it all. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of examples we have like that. But yes, those are the types of techniques that's important. If you start seeing a lot of ads from some organization, somebody's paying for that, find out why they're paying all that money and make sure their intentions or their policies that you support are in line, that they support are in line with the ones you support.
Absolutely. And so then, Tanya, thanks for joining us. Also, too, Tanya had mentioned going to the Secretary of State website to check on a business filing to see who are the officers or what have you for that business. That is the paid for by such and such. Also, go to the campaign finance website. Look for which is housed at Louisiana, ethicsla.gov. Excuse me, let me re-say that, ethics.la.gov, and then on there, you're gonna search for campaign finance, and then you search reports. Put in the candidate's name, you'll see whoever is donating to the candidate directly. Then also see who is registered in terms of organizations as filing to contribute and receive to do political activity and see where and so then Tanya, I'm gonna let you roll. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on. Thanks, Dawn.
All right.
Thanks, Tanya.
And look, we'll come back to having a longer, more detailed discussions about that type of thing as this program grows. Maybe even do a special edition.
That would be good.
And so, so let's move forward then with the viral news. You can use.
Hey. All right, so I'm a very young person, so I keep up with like celebrities sometime. First thing we got on viral news is Neo and his estranged wife Crystal about the alimony. Neo is technically just like kind of slamming her, and all the love he did have, he no longer has it, or whatnot. Not to talk too much on their life. The New York governor has put New York under a state of emergency for the outbreak of polio. Did not realize that was still going around. Polio is a very dangerous disease. Just a little FYI if you didn't know already. It also causes like paralysis, like so you can definitely get paralyzed. Like that's nothing you want to play with, and it's contagious. And I think it's like in the air as well, right?
I don't know if it's airborne, but I know that part of the problem with the polio is some argue that the growing anti-vax movement is
what's affecting it because nobody wants to take the vaccine for it anymore.
So now here we go.
Now here we go again with the polio. All right. Okay. The COVID. This is for everybody that's watching. Okay. The COVID vaccine. Understand, but the polio vaccine, dog, it causes paralysis.
He causes
paralysis. Okay, you will be paralyzed. There's nothing you want to play with. Get your baby the polio vaccine, bro.
Either one of them will get you dead.
Either one. Okay, but me personally, from a personal standpoint. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
These young generations, Renee, I don't know. That's you.
As a representative of Gen Z, all the
vaccines. You vaccinated and boosted?
Fully, everything.
Okay, all right. Well, we gotta work on Gen Z.
Well, see that polio though?
I'm polio vaccinated though, not COVID.
And I might get the monkeypox.
And they even give you a polio vaccine on a sugar cube. It's not like you got to take a shot for it.
That's beautiful.
I mean, you know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I don't get why we not doing.
I got a sugar tooth, so hey, it works for me.
Yeah.
It works for me. We got Princeton University.
Okay.
Peep out Princeton University. Shout out to them to cover all of college costs as long as the students come from a household who makes an annual below $100,000, which is a lot of people. Yeah, so imagine how many underpaying families are finishing their kids to college at a great college. We also have the lady who was hit by a train when being detained by a police officer. So overall, pretty funny.
Not funny.
I mean, funny. It's dark humor. Look, hold up. It's overall funny. It's ironic. It's ironic because you think that police officers who get paid to do their job wouldn't park on a train track.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? It happened.
So the train hit the
train
squad car?
Hit the squad car with the lady in the vehicle handcuffed. She's trying to get out because she's handcuffed.
Yeah.
And now she's got broken ribs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not only. Okay.
You want better pay? Stop parking on the train track for one. How about that?
Why do you hear the horn blowing?
Why you know what I'm saying? How about that?
You heard the train.
Where was the
y'all heard the train.
You know what I'm saying?
Right there.
So he was just standing there
You
watching?
just gonna stand
let
there.
her go.
I can't get over
Come on, bro.
that you had the audacity to park on it. Like, even if a train wasn't coming.
Thank you. On a train track.
There's so many,
That's so weird.
so many probable causes that can make you change your mind. I'm talking about the train coming. I'm talking about the little things that go down
They
that
didn't
let you
have
know
the
that the
gates.
train
I
is.
don't think
That one
they-
didn't
Oh,
have-
I didn't
okay.
see gates at
You
that
slid.
intersection.
You slid. They helped you slide. But if
I
you
know you
hear me
heard
right
the
now,
train coming though.
you heard
I
the
sure
train
you ain't
coming.
try to hop in the
He
car and
wasn't
help
the
or
only
nothing.
idiot that arrested the woman. There were several of them.
You're
There were several
adrenaline
units.
junkies. You show up to a case because you don't show up to car crashes that fast, but you show up to put a lady in the car and put her on the train tracks though.
Put her on the
Okay,
train tracks.
make it make sense.
You'd
Make
have
it-
thought one of them
You
would have said,
supposed
"Oh,
to know the
bruh, move your unit." How about move your unit?
Bro, why did you park the unit?
That would be
right
on
here?
the
train.
That was
Does it
right.
make sense?
Why did you stop on the train? What possessed you to stop the vehicle on the train track?
See if
It
you
was
got
that urgent?
see if you got that blue wall when you try to explain yourself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I hope that-
Castiel Van Gogh finally transferred to new facility. Attorney checking on his health conditions. It was just a guy who got incarcerated in Alabama after he was shot. He didn't really get a chance to get the surgery that he needed to get his bullet wounds taken care of. They just kind of picked him up from the hospital and was like, okay, well, we bringing him to jail or whatnot. So they had him sitting in this jail under bad health conditions or whatnot. And now this guy who used to weigh like 210 pounds, weighs like 75. Like literally skin and bones now.
Wow.
And his attorney has finally been able to check on him. He hadn't been able to see him for a very long period of time, and he's finally able to check on his health conditions or whatnot. And they finally moved him to a new facility who would hopefully take better care of him.
Lawsuit.
Lawsuit.
for real.
Lawsuit. Any injustice with law enforcement needs to be met with a lawsuit. All right. Skincare product focuses on affordable products called Ancient Cosmetics. They do $3 lip scrubs and also $3 skin routines that allow blemishes like dark spots to go away.
So that went viral on it?
Went viral. Millions. Sold millions. $3. $3 and you can have better skin. So check
So
it
they
out.
say.
So they say.
say.
So they say. Yeah. Check it out.
All right,
That's
all
it.
right.
That's all I got.
Cool. So now we have the books of the month.
Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
what are the
This
books?
time I only have 2. All right. And this, what is my topic I have going? Okay, so around race and the slave state. Okay, so my first book is titled "Slave State: Evidence of Apartheid in America." I went to me and Jazz, my daughter-in-law, went to a screening of a film, and this brother who wrote the book was integral in it. On the ballot, along with the school board races, this year is the question of whether or not the 13th, well, excuse me, let me say it
The
correctly.
13th Amendment.
Yeah, let me say it correctly. Whether or not in Louisiana, our Constitution should also have the language of slavery being illegal, except for except for
I feel like that's a touchy
With
subject
private prison.
because okay, when we talk about punishment, how do you punish a murderer? Right? You send him to jail, right? You send
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you turn around. So then you speaking from a place of not necessarily being familiar with the construct of the prison and how the prison labor is being used for free labor, just like
slavery.
yes, and that, for example, that it is not irony, it is not coincidence that Angola State Prison is named after Angola, the
Africa.
country, and was a former plantation, and that when the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and that's when some states mirrored it, okay, put into, and it was conditioned, and for some states, they would not join the union, they wouldn't, excuse me, some states would not ratify that
Well, what about Illinois? Who
Hold
over?
up.
Oh, okay.
some states would not ratify the 13th Amendment if the exception of hard labor was not put in as imprisonment. As a result of imprisonment was not put into that. If that phrase was not included, if that clause, excuse me, was not included in the 13th Amendment, some states would not have ratified to say that all persons shall be, all men shall be free.
Those must have been the former Confederate states.
Correct. Okay, all persons shall be free unless all persons shall be free except by, and I'm paraphrasing. Okay?
In short, they basically want to keep people
that's
enslaved.
Yeah,
Right.
And
so that was
yeah,
the creation of the systematic
Then
slavery.
they came up with the black codes.
That's right.
They
the
needed a
slave code.
transition.
Yeah, and so then by virtue of that, now, that's my way to still get the cheap labor. Or the free labor.
Yeah.
So then you have to criminalize behavior with that, you have to then criminalize behavior to fill your prisons so you can benefit from the free labor.
That's right.
And so then that's why you start to see, I see you, that's why you start to see, or you over time see different things like why crack cocaine have a higher charge than powder cocaine because
Who's using it?
who's using it.
Or marijuana is a Schedule I drug. But hear me out. What about places like Illinois, who's already started implementing taking away the 13th Amendment altogether, and where they are literally saying that if somebody trespasses on your property, the police no longer have the authority to remove them. That is up to you. We are only there to give them
Where
a
are you
ticket.
saying that?
What is
That
that,
is-
some defund
that-
police type
No,
stuff?
it's not. It's not even defund police. Illinois literally just put in place a law that says if somebody's trespassing on your land, they are allowing certain laws to.
So I saw that video, and when I saw that video, I felt like it seemed as if it was coming from a place where this police officer was sharing this in an attempt to try to like say, look, these are the issues that police are facing, versus it being something like it was a more biased video.
Oh, okay.
It
It
felt
wasn't
like
necessarily coming from a truthful place.
Maybe
I
we
wouldn't
should-
even
maybe
say
we should
truthful,
Or it
but
was
just,
some opinion,
you know, it's more.
sarcasm piece.
All right, so
No,
just like
he was
you
like, there
introduced-
is a just like how metro councils have a vote or whatnot, and you got to go vote for whatever thing. He's basically saying, hey, they are attacking our rights to basically keep you guys safe. Now we're not allowed to remove somebody off of your premises. Now we just have to write them a ticket, and you have to come up with how you're going to
But
remove
did
them
they,
off of your premises.
did they really
Or-
pass it?
But that's
they're
what I'm
looking
saying.
forward to passing it.
I saw the video on that,
Uh-huh.
and again, the video felt like it came from a biased place. I think that from that video, people should definitely do more research into whether or not it actually
It sounds
passed.
like a propaganda. It
sounded
they
like propaganda.
Yeah, it sounded like what that probably was that you saw was something along the lines of something was being proposed. Somebody want to scare the hell out of folks to say don't go with it, and so this why you shouldn't go with it because of some random shit they
Yeah.
made up.
Right.
That's what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Keep
I
funding
mean,
the police.
you know,
need
but
us.
it goes
That's-
to, but it also goes to, and I'm concerned about. Well, I'm gonna let that. But it also go. But okay, back to the book.
I have a little tidbit on
Oh,
it
yes,
when you were
ma'am.
talking. Not only, especially in Louisiana, most of our prisons here are private,
Mhm.
which means like the government pays you per bed you fill per
That's
person
right.
you have up in there. So not only am I getting free labor from
Yes.
putting you up in here, but I'm also making money off of you
Absolutely.
just being here. I'm making money off of you times 2, and you get nothing.
Yes.
Which is why we find so many black people being arrested. Why the homeless people, they just pass. They can't be anywhere. Basically,
So
they
it's
can't be anywhere.
In other words, just go ahead on and admit that you just want to get all the police to round up all the homeless people.
And
That's
put them in
right.
jail so you
So
can
you
make
can make
money
money
off
off
of
the
them.
bed.
Like
Yeah.
let's talk about what it really is.
There
And
was actually a tweet, and it was crazy to see it. But there was like I think he was like a sheriff for like one of the smaller towns, and this dude was vocalizing how he wanted to get more prisoners in, and it was like in that moment it was kind of like.
So
what do
should
you
the
mean
prison
you, like-
system exist? Like, should we allow prison? You know what I'm saying? And if we should, how would prison look to you?
Some
But that-
other
It
coun-
needs to be.
some other countries like Norway, and it's a while since I saw this.
Yeah.
Okay, but the documentary Sicko by Michael Moore. Okay, very liberal, and I'm down with it. All right, he did on whether or not we should have better healthcare system here in the United States, and at the end, the extra footage was he touched on prisons. He used Norway. Yeah, it was Norway,
Their
And
maximum sentence, I think, is 30 or 35 years.
It's more of a rehabilitation
That's
than
what
it
not-
is.
and they let the
And that's
people
what jail
leave.
was supposed to
Yeah,
do.
you know.
Well,
we
then what
see
about
them-
people like Ted Bundy, who
But-
literally
but-
killed
but-
36
He gave an
individuals?
example of that. One of the people, one of the prisoners had, one of the prisoners killed people with saw.
Mhm.
Yeah, not a saw.
A chainsaw?
Chainsaw. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And he was given a chainsaw, and I'm shortening it, and I'm being exceptionally concise. Plus, this is many years ago that I saw this, but when the goal is to make money, and the same is true in public education.
Thank you.
That's why, okay, charters are not an absolute evil. Contracts are not an absolute evil. But when folks let the primary goal be to make money, especially in the guise of pretending like you care about equity and inclusion for black children, while you making money, like you pretending like it's public safety in prisons when you just trying to make money, then, all right, the name of the book that spurred this discussion is Slave State, Evidence of Apartheid in America by Brother Curtis Ray Davis. And the next book is One Drop, Shifting the Lens on Race by Yaba Belay. It is amazing. So we talk often about race and color as we discuss black versus white, and sometimes we'll talk about Latino and the Asian community. But this particular book, we dealing with colorism and blackness amongst people of color, and what does that mean?
Like the Dominicans are not recognizing you black.
That they're black?
Okay,
Yes.
or I mean, you know, or let's keep it real, or the dark skins not having respect for the light skin. I think Sister Meghan Markle had shared on one of her very first podcast episodes. Her and who did she have on there with her? I think it was a singer. I forget, but check out Meghan Markle, I guess on Spotify or whatever. And she was talking. She said that it was not until she got married to Prince Harry that she was perceived as a black woman. Growing up, and she's biracial. Growing up in community, she was not seen as fully black. You know,
so like the black people hated her because
and that's a common. I think Eartha Kitt shared instances of that, and others shared examples of that. Of that type of experience, because people are tribal by nature and jerks. Okay, you have to be good human, but you have to work at. Well,
I think we're both. I think we have the tendency to
there you go.
Categorize and paint with the broad brush, but we also have the ability, which I think is what makes us unique.
Thank you for clarifying.
It makes us unique and makes us human. Is the ability to shrug off our thoughts. You know, for an example, right? A lot of people don't believe us. In a lot of ways, I did used to be very conservative, but I also, in being that, also recognizing it is such a limiting view and not recognizing the world is extremely complex and different, and it doesn't always fit into the boxes that you want it to fit in. And when you apply that to blackness, this is one of the things, because when you brought that up about Meghan Markle, one of the things I've looked back on is growing up, my parents said, "Oh, you're mixed," and I was like, "Yeah, but." When I interact with society, it's black. And so having to also come to terms with blackness and also understanding, you know, blackness is beautiful. And then flipping it on its head in our own communities and understanding blackness is not one particular thing.
Amen.
It is different. It is unique to each person. And that really gets into the whole construct of race not existing. But go ahead.
So yes, and I'm going to transition us from these two amazing books, Bam and Bam, and then I like the little the mention that you just made that blackness is not one thing. We're not a monolith as black people, including in the black church experience, and that is a subtle, not so subtle allusion to events that people are all up in arms about that took place earlier this week in the school system.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, not all black people pray the same, even in the black church, Christian church. Okay, not all black people feel like they want folks. I don't accept prayer from everybody because you don't.
Who you praying to?
Okay, even when you saying Jesus. My understanding of
I just don't like the 2-hour services. I got stuff to do.
Okay, my understanding of Jesus is not sexist or misogynistic, etc. So
Nor God.
Not use push hate. etc. As one example. And so with that, we will close out with I said it.
And did.
And I just said that.
And did.
And I'm going to say something else.
And will.
Go ahead and get a close up on this one.
No, this one I'm not going to cut up too bad. I really want to focus on that self-care is revolutionary thing, okay? Especially, and this is something especially important it's important for everybody, but as a black female, I make an extra effort to embrace self-care being a revolution because, self-care being revolutionary because we have a tendency to first and foremost be perceived as strong. People don't view black women as fragile. People don't, in a generalized way, people don't in general view black women as something to be protected. That's not your first perception of black women.
Or even assisted, just assisted. Just give some help from time to time.
Support, affirmation. Those things don't come up when people think about black women. Now, unfortunately for white women, they tend to be thought of as fragile, et cetera, so that they must be protected and put on a pedestal in some ways.
And it's really because they play into their victimization. Like
some do, but I will uplift this too. Some of that is about class too, because white working class women, they don't necessarily have that same
pedestal.
And some well-to-do black women don't necessarily have that burden of having to feel strong.
Right.
But generally speaking, black women tend to be troped as strong black women, and by virtue of that, in our society, we tend to in our society and overall, we American work ethic, hustle, black excellence and black entrepreneurship, you feel like you have to hustle 24/7.
As Zora Neale Hurston said, we are the
causes
muse of the world.
The muse of the
It
world.
causes anxiety.
Yeah.
It causes, just be anxious 100% of the time.
It causes anxiety.
Oh my God.
But if you're not hustling, what are you living for?
Right.
what are you doing?
What are you
moving
doing?
towards your goals?
Wow, are you guys over here questioning capitalism? How radical of all these radical communists.
Look, and before I go on with my I said it.
Socialist.
Sometimes we mention capitalism. I won't say one thing. Why I don't necessarily, although I recognize issues with capitalism, why I don't necessarily harp on it, I ain't telling y'all not to harp on it. But it's come up a couple of times, so I'm going to just mention this.
Okay.
I'm agnostic in which system. I'm going to tell you why. I'm agnostic because all of these systems, depending on who in charge, get exploited.
Correct.
Okay, and so then it comes down to more than a policy matter. Although in a perfect world, I do think socialism, unexploited socialism, is better. Okay, with some, not there are benefits to capitalism, etc. Unexploited.
Well. It shouldn't be untrammeled. It shouldn't be unregulated.
Because the food trucks are overall amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can get a food truck and you out here trying to.
Well, I think
there's a
I feel
difference.
like it's a fun game.
Capitalism
I think
and
the most important part is important. Wait.
Let's park it
When
like
you play
this.
it,
We gonna come back. Let me finish, and we can come back with all the same passion. For anybody that wants to stay past the I said it, and I did it to myself because I should have just parked it like my thoughts about capitalism in the first place.
Yeah.
So my bad for bringing you there and saying, hold up, okay? But look, for sure, self-care is revolutionary, as I mentioned, in American culture. And this is on steroids for women of color. There's a great deal of pride we take in being strong, and we do. And I had to evolve out of that, and I'm still evolving out of that. That's why I'm taking me a hiatus from campaign season, because I got to do some self-care, some self-love. Okay?
Amen.
And if we aren't wearing ourselves, then we often do not feel that we have value, and that's real talk. Like, okay, and so then, as Sister Audre Lorde once said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. So do not feel guilty when you tired, okay, and you need a break, sometimes from your children. Especially the hungry ones, okay? All right? It is self-care. Caring for yourself is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare because, again, what value do you have? And that's definitely passed down from slavery, right?
Right.
If you ain't,
That's
if
crazy.
you can't pick more cotton, what good are you?
Yeah.
Okay, after picking cotton for 12, 16 hours in the hot sun with the steel, and then, but the real question is, who are you if you cannot take care of yourself? How much value are you to those you love and care for when you consistently deplete yourself? And so, yeah, I said it. I'm taking care of myself, and you should too, and we all should. And there it is. So now, if y'all want to talk a little bit more on this.
So,
Okay,
wait,
I just on what you just said.
I want to.
Because we can't keep the cameraman here too long.
Yes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I want to.
Okay.
I want to gatekeep, and I want to do this for one reason only. Yes, one reason only. Like our first conversation, definitions matter. So what I'm
Okay,
gonna
sure.
do what I'm gonna do is this really quick.
Yeah.
After listening to everyone, I'm going to give definitions, and if I'm wrong in how you perceive it,
Right.
please tell me that.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to
That's
try to
true. I
give
like
you.
that. I like
I'm
that.
going to try and give you the definitions. First, when she said agnostic in the systems, that makes you there. Okay, there are two things, right? There are how you move through the world.
Yes.
That is a feeling. So that is where the term conservative, moderate, or progressive means. Conservative meaning I don't want to move. Moderate means I move kind of halfway. Progressive means I'm willing to go full steam. The socialism, communism, capitalism, liberalism, these are political terms, not feelings, political terms that have definitions. So when I think Dawn says she's agnostic, that would make her a progressive in the sense of movement. She is willing to go ahead and move to whatever the next system is. That inherently makes her progressive. It doesn't necessarily make her a socialist,
Right.
because a socialist is just an economic and political theory. So all of that to say here, sounds like Dawn is saying capitalism has served its day.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to move to something else.
We
That doesn't
sure do.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment. That is not necessarily what I was saying.
Okay.
My bottom line of what I was trying to articulate in that moment was simply this. And this is a struggle, especially for advocates
Mm-hmm.
and policymakers, etc. Like, yes, there's law and policy, but then there's also like the human condition, the soul of a person.
Right.
Like,
Humanism.
I was
yeah,
gonna
like
say that.
any system,
so ignored.
any system can be exploited. If
Yes.
your heart is trash, your heart is trash.
It's
Well,
trash.
this is
Very
You know, and you're gonna take, and there are unfortunately examples of socialist systems and communist systems in which people did exploit it,
Well, yeah.
and people
Yeah.
were hurt, as well as we full know here
That is
that
crazy.
capitalism has been used as a tool to exploit people.
Sure.
Capitalism has the way we in America utilize capitalism tends to be, in my opinion, more exploitive than other systems. But my point when I spoke earlier was simply that if people's heart ain't right, it doesn't matter what the system is.
So that's why I
agree.
said progressive in the sense that she's willing to move forward to whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just do
Now,
something better.
now,
Yeah.
you know,
As long
in
as it unifies.
in the political world, how Marx described it is, you know, we had cave days, feudalism, capitalism, socialism is the next step, and then whatever. All I'm saying is, because I think what I wanted to do was clear up what people were saying, because I kept hearing everyone, and I
People
kept
do often use terms,
And I was
they
like,
don't mean the same.
y'all all
Yeah.
saying something, and I feel like it's just going here. It's not landing. So what I think Dawn was at least attempting to say was, capitalism has its issues. Any system has its issues and its flaws because they are built from humans, and humans are inherently flawed. With that being said,
Especially when they work at it.
right. But with that being said, a word or term to use for I am willing to move forward, just forward in general, would be the word progressive. And that's like there's a saying, every every socialist is a progressive, but not every progressive is a socialist.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking, you know, historically, it is commonly understood from a Marx perspective, socialism comes after capitalism. So that all of that to say,
God, when?
When
Yeah,
who
that
knows?
part.
Who knows? Now,
we make
I'm-
the shift.
I'm gonna unpause and let y'all go. But I just want to say that to kind of
Well,
give.
thank you.
And I also
Give
want
people
to
some
just
grounding.
interject this thought for those that's listening and watching.
Are we still on air?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
right.
just want to interject this thought too. I
Excuse me.
believe
You all right?
that part of the reason why communism and socialism has been so demonized in some political circles in this country is that
North Korea.
the 60s and 70s, black folks in particular, in the civil rights movement,
Yes.
embraced the
Oh,
ideology
communism.
because capitalism was not working
not
for
working.
us.
Exactly.
And others too,
remember
working
that,
class
yeah.
people, regardless of race.
But communism can be exposed as well. I mean, or exploited as well.
Yeah,
and when,
and-
and when
Well,
communism
what?
is exploited, it kind of looks like a monarchy.
But
Like
can we define all of these things?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say go for it.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Lord Jesus.
You have our permission.
Okay. To me, my understanding, capitalism at its root just means private ownership of the means of production. So that is,
Agriculture.
Agricultural
the
land,
American
industry.
dream, quote unquote.
Socialism at the most basic level you can break it down just means, at least in my understanding, in my view, that the means of production are held or controlled by the people who literally do the work, and they have the right and the ability to decide where that goes. Communism, in my view and in my understanding, is not necessarily different from socialism. It is literally the historical aspect of when the Soviets took power in Russia, they wanted to differentiate themselves from the socialists, who were a little bit more moderate, were basically saying, why are we throwing people in gulags and chopping off heads?
Right.
This isn't what we wanted to do. And the Soviets said, well, we figured out the way. We're going to call ourselves communists. And socialists just said, well, we're not going to do that, and we'll just keep our name.
Right.
So, because like when
I
Chauncey
thought
said,
communism was when like everyone gets a piece.
but that's still
I
what
thought you were saying the socialist is like, all right, let's say we're writing on this paper. Us three wrote on this paper.
So
So
we get paid for it.
we get to figure out how we divvy out this paper.
if there are profits or whatever comes from it, if
Y'all
y'all did the
decide.
work,
Yeah.
y'all get to decide the proceeds of it. It shouldn't
And
be.
then
communism. The
like-
opposite is just
like
created.
everyone.
It's spread fairly. It's spread equally.
Like even if we
this
put
is a
in
piece
the
of
work,
paper,
y'all still get paid
boom,
too.
boom. We all getting a piece of this
So
piece of paper.
so that's the thing, and I think that's what Don was really pointing as like. We don't know because first of all, this is also a white German man from 200 years ago.
Right, Mark,
Yeah.
He's not here to tell us exactly what he meant, so we're all interpreting. But I do think, at least in the political realm, the collective understanding has been, like, 'cause people say, "Oh, communism, everything is equal." That's nowhere in that's nowhere in Das Kapital. That's nowhere in the Communist Manifesto. It's really it's propaganda to elicit some kind of feeling,
Okay.
about what it is. And so I think that is the thing that we all have different
Well,
definitions.
it sound like I was trying to see, and I'm gonna let it go. I was gonna Google a point of reference definition for
And-
the three,
Right.
but I'm gonna let it go. This
No.
sound like something. Well, I mean, this sound like something. We got 2 more minutes on this,
Okay.
cause we gotta let folks
Yeah.
go on with the rest of their Saturday. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you for partaking.
But it sounds like something that as we progress as a program, maybe we could do a special edition
That would
and
be
then
good.
get some professors.
Yeah.
That would be
Uh,
definitely good.
Right.
Some learned
Really
folk,
have the discussion.
and then we can chime in with our opinions,
Right.
and then we can do a little.
Because that's my concern with all discussions. I've just noticed
Oh,
that
yeah.
There's no
in my
base
life,
definition.
there's no baseline, right?
Yeah.
And so if there is no baseline, everyone's
It's all
jumping in.
perspectives.
Right.
It's all
And
And
perspectives.
disagreeing sometimes when they're not really.
Not really
Really
Exactly.
It's just how you
Yeah, I'm
perceive
talking
it.
about the
Agreeing
same
when
thing.
they not really.
And for me, I think it's important for an audience. That's not productive for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
That's
just
right.
hearing a bunch of people scream and
Blah,
yell,
blah, blah, blah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people check out of
Right.
any kind of discussion, whether it be political political, whether it be whether or not you like pineapple on pizza, and yes, it should not be on there. That is see, but
The devil.
but all, you know, without that baseline,
Pepperoni.
without that baseline,
Pepperoni.
without that baseline, I think a lot of our conversations immediately
cool.
just go.
Yeah.
So I think.
But I like that. We should
I
do
think
something.
the consensus is that we have 2 special editions
I
at
agree.
some point.
Yep,
One
yep,
is
yep.
on money and campaigns,
Yeah.
and one is on
You should bring back
economic
Tanya for that
systems.
And I think with the economic systems, get people that overall will controverse with each other. Like if he specializes in capitalism, get somebody that specializes in communism that likes communism, and then let them talk it out.
Oh, like a ringside.
Yeah, like
Maybe.
okay, well tell
Give
me
you
why
an
this is
interesting
better, and
conversation.
tell me why this is
Maybe.
better, and then tell me why socialism is
I'm
better.
not sure I want to hear too many different points of view because I think that's what we've got us politically where we are right now.
It's pretending like we trying to balance the.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
When you got people that's intent on lying
And doing harm.
Well, I feel like in the
And we do
world,
that.
everybody has their own perspective. So when focusing on uniting or unification, you have to respect one's perspective, even if
But
you
Chelsea,
deem
you
that their
cannot-
perspective is
Yeah, but
inadequate.
when
You
you
cannot
can do
unite
that.
with people who are trying to kill you.
Yes, and you can't do that
agree
when
with
folks, like when people are coming to the conversation and they sincerely are trying to have a discussion and dialogue and exchange thoughts and ideas with one another without the agenda of
Bashing.
When it's just
I can
openness.
understand that.
yeah,
Yeah.
then yes,
yeah.
but there does
Communicating.
come a place in time in which you just lying
Yeah.
or you just intend to bring the conversation in this direction and
I consider all that
and-
bashing. I'm
No,
talking about
it's
like
not.
real literal like if me and her are friends, but she has something in her mind that she disagrees with. I have something in my mind about her that that I disagree with, but we are still able to communicate and be
Then
like,
y'all,
hey,
different.
but that
That's
goes back
different.
to my
Yeah.
baseline point of you. Both of you have accepted the rules of which we will
have the
talk.
conversation.
talk,
Right.
yeah.
And- but
So
I
the
think
reaction.
that I think the misnomer that like a lot of people like, oh well, people just respect it. The point is, they don't. They
Yeah,
never
that's the
accept.
problem.
They never accepted a baseline going into that conversation. This is okay. This is what's not okay. And I think that is unproductive for an audience when we just say, well, we should have so and so who believes this, so and so who believes that, and just let them duke it out. You're assuming already that they're both starting from the same point of, like for
These
me,
morals
I
or
want
these-
to
Yeah.
I want to give information.
Yeah.
This person might just like, I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win this debate.
Trying to persuade folks. I'm
Trying to persuade, and I think that is where we,
Because I need people to believe bam.
for
Or I
whatever
need you in the conversation one-on-one to believe bam.
for whatever
and-
reason,
and
money,
because even in-
influence.
Just-
Yeah, because even in the example that you gave, Chauncey, like what you saying is, a genuine discussion amongst folks that's trying to come to a common place. All right. But then there's even times in something like that,
It rests on that assumption that we're both trying to do.
yeah, and there comes a time in which you may realize that the other person you're talking to really not, and you just got to
Even if they
you have
say
to
they
just
are.
Well,
accept.
what about
You
those
just have to
examples like
accept that it needs to be a
charrettes
shutdown.
that those became very progressive movements that even turned a KKK leader against his own clan? Was like, okay, well, I sat
But
down
he
with this
came
black
there
person.
he
He came there with the intent to
Open.
get.
But it wasn't that
to
one
push
conversation.
Yeah,
yeah, it wasn't.
And it was
that one.
other life experiences that informed him in the middle of all that.
Or maybe
that
he
helped
had a
his
road to
ears
Damascus
open.
moment. You know,
Yeah,
it could have been
Yeah.
anything.
But just because and I'll close
Yeah,
on this.
'cause-
one. I'll be
Oh yeah, we
quiet.
do have to close. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
y'all.
is that for example, CNN, Fox, like sometimes they'll have the quote unquote other side. Well, I'm gonna stick to CNN because
Fox
as
on
the
some other
example.
stuff, yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed with CNN. Beyond it, in addition to them being a cable news network that feel like they got to repeat the same garbage
Over and over and over.
over and over, and like I can know what CNN and others. So on that point, other cable news networks repeat the same thing. I can watch for 15 minutes at 8:00.
And know what they're going to talk about it too.
What they're gonna say at 8:00 p.m. and midnight is gonna be the same thing. But in addition to that, one thing I don't like is that, especially because of some of the political agendas at play, they bringing in folks that we bringing this side, let's bring the other side. But you already know that the other side, in some instances, the GOP, for example,
Thank you.
the particular GOP guest that they bring on it's an agenda to go in a whole. It's not about an honest dialogue so that we as a country can do a give and take, Democrat, Republican. Let's figure out something. I want this, you want that, and let's figure out how to get a little bit of what we both want. Communication has that mindset. Shut it down. Ain't nobody got time to be on lies and foolishness. Like, let it go.
Especially with all the harm they do.
Especially with all the harm that it does. And so that we close out and we say we love y'all and good day. Enjoy your weekend.
Hey.
We could.